But A&E has a contract with
Sir,
you.
I'm going there.
Okay.
A&E was supposed to provide me with the money to do the development, to go down there and prepare everything.
And they did.
They did, but they were supposed to give me another contract now to finance the project, to fund the project. The money I got was only development money. If you read the contract, you know. So we didn't have a contract to finance the film. They give me the money just to finance the project. I mean, to go down there and get the reports, get all the stuff ready. So when we turned the report, I spent 3.5 months traveling Mexico and Guatemala. When I turned the reports to A&E, I turned all the documentation. They said, this is fascinating. We want to make this project, but we're going to need another 7 months. 7 months? I said, no, impossible. I got the Mexican government, and I got the archaeologists from the Calakmul project, you know, and they're not going to allow this. I told them we were going to go forward with this project, and we were going to start maybe 2-3 months down the road, not 7 months, because this is going to interfere with the Mexican, the Mexican tourism, and they were going to use the project for many other reasons. Besides informing the world, it was to attract people to come and see the evidence for themselves. So finally, they put the plug. They said, you can't do this with A&E because they give you the money for development, but now they say it's going to take another 7 months to finance the project. They say no. So I told them, you know, this is a letter from the government. This is a letter from the archaeologists, and this is not going to go anywhere.
You have a letter from the government and a letter from the archaeologists telling A&E that they cannot go ahead with the project.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Have you given a copy of those letters to Mr. Diaz?
You got all the sworn affidavits from the archaeologists, Alex. You got letters. I gave them to you.
I don't recall a letter.
Well, if you don't have them, make a note, please. I will give you the letter today. Also.
Okay. So you're going to give Mr. Diaz a letter, because Mr. Diaz says he doesn't have it.
Well, if he doesn't have it, I'll give it to him.
You're going to give Mr. Diaz a letter from the Mexican government telling A&E that they can't go ahead with the project because they're too slow.
It was a letter from the archaeologists in charge of the project, and the letter stipulates...
No. I'm sorry, sir, but let's be clear. You told me there was a letter.
I know what I told you, and let me clarify it. Let me rectify it. I got the letter from the archaeologists.
Not from the Mexican government.
The archaeologists work for the government, sir, telling me we cannot go forward anymore. They're going to take this long. The government informed me over the phone, this is taking too long.
Who at the government informed you over the phone?
The Secretary of Tourism, the Secretary of Culture, the governor himself, they were telling me this is taking too long. And the president is not going to like this because it's interfering with the tourism, campaign. So I said, what do you want me to do? They said, you got to find other sources of funding for this project and make it happen.
So it's your testimony that you told A&E that they could not go ahead with the project, rather than A&E telling you that they weren't going to go ahead.
That's right. I told them they.
You told them they.
And there were communications between me and Ed Elber and A&E, trying to alleviate the situation and see if we could have reduced the time period and maybe do it and finance it in 3 months, as they indicated in Mexico. And A&E says, well, we need more time because we need to prepare this. We need to get the director. They wanted to get the guy who did the Cave of the Forgotten Dreams, Herzog. And they spoke to Herzog and they spoke to Errol Moss, and they were so interested in the project, but they said, we need some time to do this project. We need at least 7 to 8 months, because they were doing other projects, but they wanted to do the project. Unfortunately, I couldn't wait any longer.
Okay, and so once you told A&E that they could not do the project, what did you then do in order to get the project made? Who did you talk to about it? I started immediately talking to Ed Elber and Elizabeth Tier more openly and said, okay, well, now we gotta make a decision here whether you're interested in doing it anymore. We've been talking to you for a long time already about the project. So what's going to happen? Oh, I want to make the project. Let's do the project. That's what happened. Then who was the first person you contacted in order? A&E told you in February of 2012
that they were not going ahead with the project. Is that correct?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Or you told them, whichever way.
I told them.
February 2012 is when you... Did you have any correspondence with A&E about them not moving fast enough, and that's why you're going to cancel?
Yes.
Okay, have you seen that, Mr. Diaz?
I didn't thought it was irrelevant, man, for this. So you want to see the emails?
Yes.
I'll give them to you, yes.
I would like, you'll supply those to
sure.
Mr. Diaz, and he'll supply them.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So my timetable says it was around February. Does that sound about right to you?
Maybe, yes.
Okay. So in February of 2012, there's a project you've been working on, and that project was given to A&E in September of 2011, and now is not going to proceed with A&E in February of 2012. And you need financing. So who's the first person you contact, you and/or Ed Albert or whoever's working in conjunction with you, in order to replace the financing that A&E would have provided in order to make the document?
We had already in place a list of material ready to finance the project if it didn't work out with A&E. So Elizabeth just was waiting to hear whether A&E was going to finance it or not. And she had indicated to me and Ed Albert that she wanted, hopefully, A&E pass on the project, that she will finance the project. So obviously, she was the first person we notified that A&E is no longer in the picture.
Let me just be clear, though. You did not talk to anyone else about financing the documentary after A&E was out of the picture?
We didn't have no reason, sir. We had your client.
Yes or
No.
I just want to know who you talked to.
No,
that's all.
I just...
So you went directly to Elizabeth Terrio about it at that time, and how long after A&E was not going to go ahead with the picture did you go to Elizabeth Terrio?
Immediately, the next day.
Okay. Had you been involved in a project with Ed Albert prior to that time?
Yes.
What had you been involved with?
I brought him as a producer on Chronicles of the Mayan, also, based on the book that I wrote. He was going to be one of the producers.
Okay. So the book is not called Chronicles of the Mayan.
It's called Chronicles of the Mayan Tunnel.
Okay. So that's the same book we're talking about, right?
Revelations of the Mayans, 2012, is the documentary, sir.
Yes.
The Chronicles of the Mayan Tunnel is a book that I wrote. It hasn't been published yet.
Okay. And that book, you were going to make a movie out of that book? What were you going to do? A movie or a documentary?
I said it before, very clear. Maybe I need to give you a recollection.
Maybe I didn't understand.
Oh, you did
You
understand.
were going to make you were going to make a movie out of that book, correct?
Yeah.
You haven't made a movie out of that book,
No.
is that correct? Okay. Did you ever write a script rather than a book?
Sir, you're asking me the same questions. I said, yes, we had a script. We wrote a script.
You wrote a script
Yes.
for your book?
Yes, sir. It was written by Tyrone Entertainment. Yes. I told you that before.
It was written by Tyrone Entertainment?
Yes.
You mean a writer that they hired?
They hired a writer, but at the end, it turned out to be a lie. He didn't hire any writer to write the script, and instead he wrote the script himself, James Ordonez.
Okay. So what you're telling me is, based upon the book that you wrote, the unpublished book, you had a deal with Tyrone Entertainment that they would hire a writer to write a script based upon the book, but that they didn't do that. Instead, James Ordonez wrote a script himself.
Yeah.
And did he submit the script to you?
Yes, 2 years later. Yeah.
2 years later, he submitted a script to you. And that movie's never been made,
No.
correct?
No, because Wesley went to jail, and obviously Johnny was not really interested at that point because the guy is in jail. But I still have a contract with Wesley. And the contract stipulates that he's part of this project, so I'm going to end up doing this movie when he's out of jail. So.